hour. You know what? If you've ever seen a Bigfoot or a dogman while you were out camping or out in the woods, well, you can get a hold of me and tell me about your story at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. That's nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Also, while you're doing that, check our website out at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Find out who the guest is going to be, well, each week, and news stories and all that great stuff. Everything from UFOs to Bigfoot to, well, truckers out there, which are a great part of our show. And again, I want to thank all the truckers that listen to Night Dreams Talk Radio each night. Without you, we wouldn't be where we're at tonight. By the way, there's a radio station in Melbourne, Australia that I've been in talks with that want to carry our replays of our show. If that happens, well, it's going to open up a whole new area for Night Dreams Talk Radio. Well, George, we're back with you. Bigfoot. What does your wife really feel about Bigfoot? Now, does she just go along with you because she loves you, or does she feel like maybe they exist?
Oh, she thinks they exist. She was on the bus with me. She saw the same thing that I saw, and we live in the same house, so she hears plenty of the same stories that I hear. So she believes that they're real. In our first night that we actually went Bigfooting at Salt Fork, on that trip, we split up into two or three different groups, and her and I were in different groups. There's 4 or 5 of us in each group, or maybe a little more or less. And the group that she was with, they went out into Salt Fork, and I forget what road it was now, but they went out into a field there, and they heard heavy footsteps that were shaking the ground pretty close to where they were standing. And the guy that was kind of closest to her, he was really scared. He grabbed her arm. They were pretty terrified. And nothing happened other than that, but there's not too many things that shake the ground, nearby where you're walking. So that was her first impression on the first night. And then, I had heard in my group, we had heard tree knocks all around us, and somebody else saw eye shine, and that was right away. As soon as we got out there, that started happening. And then we regrouped for the night back at the camp, the group camp off Parker Road at Salt Fork. And her and we were camped in the back, and we heard this. It was kind of hard for me. Before we went there, I kind of made up my mind that there was too many videos and too much evidence for this to be fake. So I was kind of believing that it was real, and then things started happening as soon as we got there, which kind of reaffirmed that. But then that night, after we had those things happen, I was pretty awake. I tried to sleep. I was in a hammock, and it was, it's kind of, my first night sleeping in a hammock is always kind of uncomfortable. It's hard for me to sleep. So it was 2, 3 in the morning by the time I fell asleep, but it was kind of one of those, you're barely sleeping, kind of in between consciousness states. And I heard this really loud, kind of like machine gun banging with this loud scream mixed in with it. And it really, and I'll throw this in there just to, why not? I was having this kind of lucid dream that there was Bigfoots around, and they were, I don't know what they were doing, but I was really unnerved. And then I heard that sound, and it woke me up, and I said to her, did you hear that? And she said, yeah, I heard it. So it woke both of us up, and then, the next day we were asking other people, because they weren't that far away from where we were, if they heard it, and other people said that they didn't hear it, and they told us, the people that were there said that it was a woodpecker in the middle of the night screaming and, machine gun banging trees.
They can do that. Because, like I mentioned, I have 2 acres of cedar trees. And, every spring through summer to early fall, we have this one woodpecker. It keeps coming back. And I can tell you what, if you're half asleep, it sounds like either a jackhammer or a machine gun, one of the two. I mean, I don't know how they could do it, but, it could be kind of like if you're half asleep and you hear that, it could scare you.
Yeah, it could have been, And, but kind of just back to your question, she was kind of believing from the get-go, and then we also found a footprint maybe the next day or two off the trail, which was interesting. So that's kind of how we got started, and I was more and more convinced that it was legitimate, and she is too. So we're kind of on the same page. I think we'd probably have problems at this point if she was a total non-believer, and then there's me, pretty deep into it. I think we might not get along as well, but so it's kind of good for our relationship that we're both on board.
Think it would be, yes. Now, on your Facebook page, group page, do you get many hoaxsters on it, putting pictures up there or videos up that darn well that are totally 100% fake?
Yeah, all the time. And, I kind of, I had to kind of I've refined my stance on how I post things and what I let people post. And where I'm currently at is where, I'll put pictures of things that look like cutouts, or things that look obviously fake, just so people can learn the difference maybe and make up their own mind as to what is real or what's not real. And, people get upset and, you know how controversial some of these videos are, but in all reality, from the big picture, from the person that doesn't know anything about Bigfoot, all the videos are fake. There's always people that think that every video is not real. So I kind of just take an objective approach. I'll put my opinion in the comments, but I'll still let things, on there just so we can use it to learn and let people form their own opinions.
Yeah, the ones I get suspicious of the people who go out, every time they go out, they capture a Bigfoot. I'm talking about it. I don't care if it's 5 days a week or 6 days or 7 days a week. They go out, they come back, and they have, here's this. You can look through the woods right there. You can see it. And when I look at the pictures, I see a stump. But, to them, they see a Bigfoot.
Right, and, if people do that, then, there's one guy that was, had a video, it was a mask, and he had an ongoing channel, 10,000 people that followed him that believed everything he said, and, that's kind of what he was doing. And you can't show a rubber mask in a video, and, the internet, you can slow it down, blow it up, so things like that. Some people believe whatever they want,
Well, not given the whole name. What was his first name? Do you remember?
He used a kind of a call sign on YouTube, like Squatch something, or it wasn't his real name, but yeah, it was in Salt Fork State Park.
Yeah, there's a couple hoaxsters out there, but I mean. I've had some of them on the show, and I do it because, the show is entertainment. And I let, if they got a good story, I'm going to let them share it. And then I let the listeners make a decision if they have to change their shoes afterwards.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of get a feel. I mean, doing this long enough, you've been in radio, since it's the 70s, right? I mean, you kind of get an idea of who's leading you on and who's finding Bigfoot at every turn. I mean, there are some people, I think, that have kind of a habituation situation where maybe Bigfoot's kind of their neighbor, where they're finding tree structures and they're banging on the house and things like that. And, maybe that's a little more credible than somebody that is just luckily running into them in the local park every time they go out.
Yeah, that's the ones that get me. They go out 5 days a week or 3 days a week, And every time they go out, they see a Bigfoot, or they see little people, or they see UFOs they can point their fingers at in the sky, and it falls where they're pointing. You know, I've had them all.
Yeah, so that's why I try to, at least for me, I try to give some evidence of what I've seen instead of me just telling you that I saw something. And I think people that do that should have, you know, if they say it's a Bigfoot, then they should follow up and go take an after picture. Okay, that's where it was on this day, and then I go back the next day, and I'll show you, you know, some kind of recreation to lend credibility to what they're describing instead of just their story.
Well, I come to a conclusion, you know, like when I don't go around talking about my encounter every day, but I do, you know, like tonight you were on, so I talked about it. But you know what? I have had people, I know they afterwards, they come and ream me like you wouldn't believe. Well, Bigfoot wouldn't do this. Bigfoot would this, and that. And then I say to them, I said, well, you know, what have you seen in a Bigfoot? Well, I never saw one. Then I, you know, I respond to them, then how do you know what a Bigfoot would or wouldn't do?
Right. Yeah, you can't, I mean, in my opinion, you can't just blanketly make statements that it won't do this or only do that or it'll turn invisible or won't let you see it. You know, there's so many reports that I've read and listened to, you know, I've just, like I told you, I do this every day, listening to reports and encounters, and there's a wide variety of things they may or may not do. You know, you can't say that they're not going to charge you or kill you or, you know, because it's a good chance these things have happened already. And
yeah, well,
you gotta look at it from an aggregate.
Well, talking to like the Indian tribe and stuff, what they told me in the past that they found bones, you know, of their loved ones after the Bigfoot have, you know, encountered and grabbed their, you know, babies or their squaws. But, you know, I think me and James, we need to come out with a nice cap that is aluminum foiled, you know, encased inside. That way, when these certain people go out looking for Bigfoot, if they get orbs and stuff for the orbs don't go down their neck and into their brain and communicate with them, the tinfoil will bounce the signal back off.
That's a good idea, Gary.
We could become rich. We'll call it the Bigfoot hat.
Yes, and it could be like the Swedish knife too, because it could have other purposes, like, you know, it could keep the aliens from getting in your mind and scrubbing it and putting false memories in and things like that too.
Oh yeah. Oh, we could dual market it. We could go on to people that have their Bigfoot sites and UFO abduction sites and say, we got a hat. So we'll just call, you know, the same hat, but we'll just call it two different names.
Exactly. Yeah, there's actually a site that sells that.
Oh, you just wrecked my night. You know that, George.
Thank God.
I thought my boat would be coming in on this one. You know, at 68 years old, I could be rich for, you know, till I pass on.
It's funny, this guy, he doesn't actually make them out of tinfoil. He makes them out of this stuff called Velostat. It looks like a garbage bag, but it's got some kind of magnetic. But you could find it if you get creative with your search on the internet.
Not really.
Not really.
Well, gee, you know, that would have been just perfect for the hunter. It doesn't want to be invaded by orbs from a Bigfoot.
Orbs.
You know, the orbs that go down your neck and into your brain and make you feel warm and fuzzy. Something like I used to be like when I first married my wife.
Oh, boy. How many times have you used her car lately since that day, I wonder?
I told you, she doesn't let me ever drive her car since then unless she's sitting next to me. I told you that.
Oh, yeah, you did say that, didn't you?
She has never
Well, I don't
me.
know. That was a heck of a... Poor Linda. Between you telling her that and if you even tried to tell the insurance company, that would be something.
Oh, yeah, sure. You're going to call it Geico and say, hey, Geico, my car got damaged on the front fender and the door. The new car? Yeah, the brand new car. Well, how did it happen? Oh, do you want me to lie? Oh, no, if you lie, we can take you and have you in prison and file criminal charges.